What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cheeky Midweeky, where we are making strength and conditioning not boring anymore. And we have the man behind CVASPS, Jay DeMayo, on the call. Jay, thanks for joining the show, brother.
Thanks, man. I'm sorry to disappoint people and make things boring when they're not supposed to be when I jump on because I'm just the old grumpy, curmudgeony guy who's kind of been stuck in his ways and just trying to enjoy life through retirement at this point, I guess.
Well, I mean, you talk about, you call yourself Greybeard. You got the new Jordans that are great. Like, you've been doing this for a while. So, like, start us at the beginning. Like, how'd you get into all of this? Like, where did it begin?
Well, first, I don't call myself Greybeard. I
Oh, you
have
don't?
been dubbed Greybeard by the one and only Chase Campbell, who is
Ah,
now at Providence. He called me at one CVASPS, and I think it actually might have been in front of Matt Johnson, so that like there was no way of getting away from it. So yeah, it was I was stuck. But it's great, and I unfortunately 20 years of college basketball makes it fitting. You know,
gray
just,
hair, not just
yeah,
gray beard.
just gray,
Just gray, yeah.
just straight up gray. But yeah, no, I'm fortunate to have been here for 20 years, but to get here was kind of an older sort of style of journey, right? I was a Division III soccer player at SUNY Cortland, got hurt. We had an athletic trainer who also was our strength and conditioning coach at the time. Her name was Farron Bennett. She caught wind of me enjoying the weight room and said, "Hey, do you want to try to train teams?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." Um, Started working with our softball program there. Got to work with men's ice hockey too.
Okay.
Thought I was writing great programs. Um, Good Lord, were they not? But I think we all have that moment. I got an opportunity to intern under Brian McGovern at Binghamton, who's actually still there. So hopefully Gov hears this and can hear me say thanks for taking a shot on me. I believe I was his first intern. So it's obviously only gone up from there. And then Kip Hittrick hired us at Indiana State as a GA, which really, I think when I was with Kip was when I really learned that I didn't know anything. When I was like we were talking about actual programming and periodization, and I was just like, huh? Like, what are you talking about, bro? We got to do math with this? Like, are you kidding me? I thought we were just lifting weights. And yeah, like it was great and really opened my eyes to it. Kip had an opportunity to go back home, bring his family closer to both his parents and his wife's parents. We had about 6 months left in our GA. Both of us, me and the other GA, who I don't know if he's still coaching or not, kind of freaked out because you know what happens when your boss leaves, right?
Mm.
Everybody gets to leave on their own accord. Um, and then Gov called me and was like, "Yo, there's a paid internship at Richmond. Do you want it?" And I don't think I said yes fast enough. I met Darren Thomas, who was the director at the time, down at the old Sports Specific conference in Orlando. So yeah, there's probably a lot of people like, huh? Like, yeah. So the coaches conference used to be called the Sports Specific Conference, and it was like half baseball, half football.
Yeah, that's what Bob said.
Yeah, yeah. Bob Alejo?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're probably two of the only people old enough to be able to remember what it was. Um, yeah, and it was great. I got to talk with Darren. They flew me out here for an interview, got the job. Was passed over once for the basketball job. And then the guy who had the job here was moving on, went to the tactical sector before that was like a cool thing to do.
Hmm.
And Moon gave me a shot, and 20 years of tripping and falling on my face and acting like a fool later, I've been able to have a really great tenure working with a pretty awesome head coach, super well respected guy in the field, and I've really been able to kind of learn and build some systems and principles based on really like the type of player that we try to get.
Yeah.
um, which is unique, right? Like we don't normally get like that longitudinal look at things is at most usually like 5 years. You know, I mean, I've coached guys that come back and they're like, "Yeah, man, I'm turning 40." It's like, word, like, dude, I didn't realize I was that old. I mean, I feel it, but I didn't realize I was that old. That like guys in their mid 30s turning 40, like pros retiring, like it's pretty amazing.
That's super cool though, because I got to see that at Iowa, and I wasn't the head guy, but being able to see guys that played, under Coach Ferentz and with Coach Doyle and Coach Parker as their coaches, that stability is super cool and super awesome. So like you're kind of downplaying it, but I think there's really something special to it. And I was just visiting a school recently where they were talking about how that kind of essence of visiting your alma mater is almost gone. So for any of those guys, they get to have some nostalgia, and then the nostalgia of getting that other people don't get. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's fun too because it's like so this summer we'll have guys that are going to come back that have graduated anywhere from like 21, 22ish to like 2014 that are still pros.
Word.
You know, that come back and they're just like, even if it's just for like a couple weeks, just to you know train a little bit, just kind of almost like a refresher course as to like what routines were working and how they can kind of reestablish some things. And yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It makes it really fun, especially when you've been able to see it and see how these guys their training has improved as your like thought process has evolved.
Mm.
um and how much like these routines, the true value in it when it comes to like their longitudinal development and career longevity. Because like we all love to talk about how plan B needs to be so close to plan A and this, that, and the third. But if you don't have plan A to begin with, like what truly works with
Ooh.
you and how you can build out that routine. Like, how do you know when you go to Italy and you might not have a squat rack, like, or you do have a squat rack and you don't have dumbbells or you don't have jump stretch bands or whatever. Like, if you do TKEs every day before practice, but you don't know any other way to do some sort of VMO work to get your knee feeling loose to start or feeling better to start, if you don't know where you're starting and you don't know any alternatives to the like plan A, like what are you supposed to do? Like, and that's really where like it's changed for me. Do that and help them just continue to evolve with what's necessary to them being able to continue their career. Because at the end of the day, these kids work so hard for basketball.
Yeah.
What I really hope is that they end out being able to have basketball work for them at the end.
So one of the things that I wrote down was you wrote actual program. Like, you learned how to actually program, and it was one of the most difficult things for you. And a conversation that I had with Yosef was he thinks that was one of the most important things that Coach Bondarchuk brought to strength and conditioning was his periodization. Are you referring to that, or like dive down that rabbit hole of what actual program periodization looks like, and then what Coach B really did do to the field of strength and conditioning?
So that's kind of a loaded question. What does periodization look like? So what Kip had, his was really like strategically placed undulated periodization where you were calculating training loads each day and there were specific percentages that throughout the week that he wanted you to hit. And it was great. Now, if we fast forward to the transfer portal era where we're building all of these things out and we're trying to understand that each year is year one,
Hmm.
periodization now to me is slow, consistent, progressive overload in a matter that doesn't negatively impact practice. Um, Hank always, I believe it was Hank, said that like you can never do more tomorrow or never do less yesterday, but you can always do more tomorrow, right? So like with the guys here, because they're never not playing, um, the goal is now simply to be able to find a way for them to be able to practice at a greater intensity for a longer duration more often. And to do that, we need to be able to slowly and progressively increase different training loads for them to be able to withstand those things or recover from those things. Um, and it's kind of fit really well with what Doc does, in my opinion. Um, Anatoly has done some amazing things. I mean, I would never argue with Joseph about him being arguably the greatest coach of all time. I mean, shoot, there's literally 2 of his books staring me right in the face right now. I just don't know if everybody's ready for Anatoly in college basketball. You know what I mean? Like, if you're on your third school and your third or fourth strength coach and you've never actually devoted 3 years to some form of organized with one set of principles, progression, are you necessarily ready and needed for more intense loading, advanced means, things of that nature? Um, Again, I'd never say anything bad about anything Anatoly did because, like, he knows more about this. He's forgotten more than I'd ever know. I just don't know. Like, I think that we jump to a lot of those things really quick. And I think Joseph would probably say this as well, but, like, people just aren't ready for it. I think the one thing that Anatoly did that people overlook and might be the most powerful thing is they did the same thing over and over and over and over, like Marshawn Lynch over and over and over and over. Like, because, like, as we jokingly say at the end of the bench, every time it works, it does. So, like, if it's working, why are you changing it? Like, we get in our own way because we get bored, right? We get bored of like, oh well, these extensive short coupling jumps, they seem to be moving better, and their sprint times are faster, and they're jumping higher, and they seem to be moving weight better. But if I have to watch him jump over another hurdle, I'm going to rip my eyes out. You know? Well, hey man, don't look, because if it's working, why are you going to change it? And I think that might be one of the most overlooked things if you actually look at Anatoly's programming. And I mean, Derek and Jake would be way better to talk about this than me. Um, I think that that's probably the most overlooked aspect of what he did and his programming that, like, people don't want to do. Carl Valle said it best, man. Boring works.
Ooh, boring does work. And one thing that I wrote down there is, do you think now basketball, y'all have always been playing forever, but like
Yeah.
with football and these other sports where, okay, maybe if they're doing more of their actual sport, do strength coaches now more than ever though need to lean into all of the old literature because they were track and field sports where they were all like track's always running. So do they then really need to now fall on those principles even more now than ever?
I would say so. I mean, I don't know if I would say more than ever because I would say that it probably was necessary all along. But
Mm, good point.
um I mean, yeah, like I think the part that ends out being where we throw the baby out with the bathwater in this vocation is we chase some metrics that we think are cool that might not necessarily matter.
Ooh.
And that's not like a shot at people. That's not a negative. That's not, it just is what it is. And whether it be because of lack of a true role or a measurable role, that might be a better way to say it for what we do. We look at things and it's like, well, yeah, but our strength numbers went up, or yeah, our 40 numbers went down, or yeah, our verticals went up, or we, if we look at injuries, those numbers went down, or our returns were faster, or whatever it may be, because we're trying to rationalize our existence. But in reality, like, what truly matters? it might not even be a metric. And I think that that's one thing that like that 21-22 team really probably helped me learn the most is that sometimes what you're trying to measure gets in the way of what the player's actually thinking.
Ooh.
So like if I sit here, right, and we're fortunate, we've got a set of force plates down there. We've got Val to do these things. And because of CVASPS, I'm really lucky. I can text Kareem and be like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And he'll be like, this is what you're looking at. And I'm like, that's super cool. Thank you. But if I did that and I were to have shown one of those guys, arguably our 4 best players, that data and said, so we should work on this, 2 or 3 of them would have been like, yeah, but that's not what I need to get better at. I need to work on this. Well, but the data says we need to do that. Well, the second leading scorer all time at the University of Richmond says he needs to work on that. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, maybe the guy that's the PhD in the sport knows a little bit more than the computer that's telling you you're slightly imbalanced with how you land on your jump. You know, and again, I'm not taking away from the metrics. They're important. There are things you can do with them. I'm a nerd. Like, I was the first person, one of the first people in basketball to track all this stuff and do all these things. And it's great. But there's so much power in the subjective and working with the kids to put these things together that, like, again, every time it works, it does. And if they believe in it, whether your metrics say one thing or another, if they go out and they're like, man, I did that stuff today and practice was great and I felt awesome and I came back the next day and I still felt great. Well, guess what? They're probably going to want to do that. They're going to invest more in that. They're going to do better with that. So why are you not going to do that? Because your heart rate monitor or your GPS system said something else? Newsflash, those kids don't give a shit about that. Like, some of them think it's cool, but then they'll look and be like, yeah, but you get a lot of yeah, but, especially with some of the guys we get, because for the most part, they're pretty good at school. So it's like, huh, you know, it's saying that, but okay. The but is really important.
Huh. Yeah, hearing you talk about that, like I instantly right now, anybody who's listening, the Celtics are up 3-0 on the Mavericks, and it's like, you know, if you tell Dallas like, oh, your numbers are looking good, they're like, well, we're not playing good ball. Or if the Celtics like, oh, your numbers are down, they're like, it doesn't matter, we're up 3-0. Like at the end of the day, the ball don't lie, right?
Yeah, winning's winning. And yeah, you know, like I'm sure if you look statistically, I'm sure Kyrie and Luka's numbers are great right now. But their third leading scorer is Ofer. So it's like, you know, you fix what you see needs to be fixed, right? And listen to the player when it comes to what needs to be worked on. And sometimes, like when the metrics, you look at things and how you evaluate stuff, if you take the time to talk with the player about what you're seeing and what you're looking at and how you're looking to attack something, sometimes they just will be honest with you and be like, yeah, but you know, like we got a kid right now. It's like, yo, man, when you do this, it just looks like we don't move well. Like, is this something you think we should attack? And in 2 sentences, he explained why he didn't think that was important to his game. Immediately, we're moving on to the next thing. Like, if they already have something in their mind that like this isn't important, you're not going to win. So like, find the thing that's going to work. You give them those things that are going to work, and they're going to do the things that no one likes to do other than strength coaches. You know, no one other than a strength coach likes to squat for a 20 or deadlift for a 20. No one. Like, no one. Just because we're all a little crazy, we love to do those things.
You need CEUs to remain certified. At Strength Coach Network, both of our long form education courses, Fundamentals 1 and Fundamentals 2, both have 2.0 CEUs to the NSCA in Category C. When you complete the learning and you complete the learning check, you will earn your 2.0 CEUs. That is 33% of the CEUs you need in a 3-year reporting period. Click the link down below to learn more about both courses. if you're looking to train your athletes in person or remote, you need to make sure that you're utilizing TeamBuildr. I have had TeamBuildr since 2019 and still utilize it with my remote athletes. This makes everything simple, from the ability to program, have videos right there, wellness questionnaires. Loved being able to have it in person at the rack at Towson, and being able to have it in person now at Goldfinch. This has made my life easier as a coach. If you're still printing on paper, I don't know what you're doing. If you have a different software company, again, I don't know what you're doing. Check out TeamBuildr down in the link below. Hawkin Dynamic is the best option if you're trying to get any force plate data, or if you're trying to collect any isometric mid-thigh pulls. Not only can you do isometric mid-thigh pulls for the lower body, but I call it an isometric mid-thigh pull for your upper body, where you're able to do an isometric push-up into something where your back is pushing into a bar and your hands are on the force plate. I utilized Hawkins force plates and Hawkins software when I was at Towson. Still utilize it now when I'm at Goldfinch. If you're using the other competitors, I don't know what you're doing. Hawkins customer service is second to none. Hawkins software and their hardware, again, second to none. Check them out in the link down below.
But they'll give you that because you're giving them the things that they know. They don't think, they know. This is what's important to me.
And hearing you say that, I'm wondering, like, what's that fine line between, okay, they did X, they performed Y on the court. Like, how do you try to disassociate that with something like, oh, well, I had McDonald's beforehand, or I skipped my test. Like, you see what I'm trying to get at? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, well, they haven't done that yet. And I don't know if the microphone picked that up, but that was me knocking on wood. And I hope they're not listening to this, because there's a couple guys that listen to a bunch of the shows that I've been on, and they throw things in my face all the time, which is great. But I think that, I mean, they're not dumb. Like, they're 18 to 23-year-old nitwits, but they're not dumb. You know, we were all 18 to 23-year-old nitwits, and I think that we forget that at times.
I was dumb too, though. Like, I was.
I mean, I'm sure I was probably a step past dumb. I'm sure I was an idiot. But they seem, for the most part, to get it, you know. And will they say that and mean it? Like, oh, I had a bowl of Lucky Charms and I shot perfect around the arc today. Will they say that and mean it? Probably not. Will they say that with the sole intention of busting my balls to get under my skin? 100%. There is zero hesitation in my mind that they would do that. They would actually probably go get the bowl with the milk still in it and be like, this is what I ate. And that's fine, because, like, I think that that's part of what Chris has done great in this crazy new normal, saying that, that we live in, is he's brought in good dudes. Like, I probably have said this for the last 14 months on repeat. I don't know if this group is going to be able to play a lick of ball, but they work hard and they're fun to have around. You know, last year we didn't know. We ended out having a kid who ended up being co-player of the year, who I really hope gets a chance with an NBA team, because he could make it. You know, super kid who started out being a walk-on in the MAAC, not the MAC, but the MAAC. Like, and he came in here after busting his butt for 4 years and was the Atlantic 10 Player of the Year.
Wow.
I mean, and his first team all good guy, but can bust balls with the best of them. And, like, you're never safe. It didn't matter. You could have been in church. You said the wrong thing. Oh, you were getting it. And it's just like, that's the guys that he's brought in, guys that are, and I don't know how they find them. In when people are jumping all over, I'm sure that it's hard when you're only recruiting a kid now instead of for 2 years, for 2 weeks. But we've been really fortunate, you know, high major guys transferring up, that just, like, good dudes that want to work, that want a chance, and are really fun to be around.
You know, you said it at the beginning that there was an open, like, was it just the opening that was basketball, or was there a specific, like, in the back of your head? I mean, you said you'd played soccer. Like, why basketball? Was it simply just the opening? Looking back, these 20 plus years.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
like,
that simple, anybody.
listen,
If you find an opening, go take it.
yeah, like, I mean, like, people complain about salaries now. Like, I was making just north of $2,000 a month, and I had a chance to raise that by like 25%. And I was like, yeah, and now if people looked at that, they would be like, there would be like an absolute like nuclear reaction on Twitter, but it was awesome, and not only was I with basketball, but I had swimming, field hockey, both tennises, women's soccer.
Jesus.
May have still had baseball at that point, and then slowly transitioned away from some of those teams. And then we went to the Sweet 16 in 2011, and I was supposed to go down to just one other team because I was going to travel, but then I moved some things around and ended up keeping like 3 teams on top of men's basketball. So it's like, yeah, I mean, did I do some of that to myself? Yup, sure did. It was great working with all those teams. I mean, it was exhausting, but learned so much. There's so many things that, especially like keeping that field hockey team. There's so many things that, Gina Lucido, who's now Gina McCorkle, um, Stephanie Bernthal, Chelsea Davies, that they did for me. Mark Warshall, the athletic trainer, that they did for me to make me a better coach and to learn and have brought some huge pivots to how I look at things as a practitioner. It was. I think that right now we look too much at what's right in front of us instead of the projection that things can lead to later. And that additional work and the opportunity to work with those women and really mature and grow as a coach along with that coaching staff probably saved my career.
Wow. What makes you say that?
The word fitness. So we had, Gina was super patient with me. And thank heavens. We used to have these conversations where she would just talk about our fitness, our fitness, our fitness. And me, being a blockhead strength coach, was just looking at our numbers. Just like, well, we're better conditioned. And then it was just like one day she was just using like buzzwords, right? Like fitness, athleticism, quickness. And I was just like, all right, we got to stop. And I'm like, do you need what's on the dry erase board? And she was like, no. I'm like, we're going to define all of these terms. We're going to sit here and figure out what these mean to us, because I don't think they mean the same thing to me that they mean to you. And when we did that, everything changed. Like the focus of the program, days a week we were doing X, Y, or Z, like everything turned around. And it really made me take a step back and be like, maybe we're not right.
Me as a whole?
Yeah. Like maybe we're not right. Oh, well, they need X, Y, or Z. Well, the coach says they need A, B, and C. Okay. Well, if we're truly a support member, shouldn't we be giving them and the athletes what they need to be supported? It doesn't matter that we think they need something. There's people in these positions that are in charge and, take the bullets for us. We should be giving them the product that they're asking for. And I owe a lot to Gina for that. Because when I asked her to erase that whiteboard, man, she could have told me to kick rocks and get out of her office. Like, for real, though. She could have been like, what is this garbage? Get out. But I think that her allowing me to do that and us having like that reset, it like changed everything for me. It literally, it saved my career.
I wrote that down because it is that important to get on the same page with your teams and your coaches. So any of our listeners out there, like, do the exact same thing, because I mean, the word fitness, any three listeners out there probably have a different terminology for that one exact word. And I know it's always a soccer thing, it seems to be.
Yeah. It's like a fall sport thing, like an invasion game. I'm sure they'll like the lacrosses at some point. They talk about it too.
Yeah, you're right.
But like, yeah, like those basically non-football invasion games.
But I mean, they're essentially just saying like the ability to keep doing the thing that they're trying to do. Like they just want to keep playing the sport.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
it's just how they want to measure it and what things matter. And, you know, it was great.
That's
I owe a
important.
lot to those three, man. I owe a lot to those three.
Moving on, you have talked a ton. You've been on different shows. You've talked about Doc Yesus. Can you explain how you first got connected and started learning, and you know, the word apprentice or mentee? Like, what is the appropriate word? But let's talk about the genesis of that.
Just like most things with me, it starts with Yosef. You know, and I guess I should tell the story about how Yosef and I got connected initially, because if it wasn't for Yosef, there wouldn't be Doc, there wouldn't be my relationship with Hank and Natalia, and there wouldn't be CVASPS. So there wouldn't be Greybeard. Like none of this would exist. But like back in the day, Yosef ran a couple of symposiums, and the DVD sets were like the hottest commodity of all time. Right, the Verkhoshansky one and the Chicago seminar. I think he might have done both in Chicago. I don't remember, but we ordered them. I think my mother ordered them for Christmas for me, and Yosef reached out to her, and she sent them to me, and he was like, "I'll trade you something for like a shirt," and I was like, "Huh? All right, whatever, dude. That's cool." And then like we were talking about CVASPS when I was starting to put it together, and he was like, "Well, would you ever want Doc or any of my authors? Just let me know and I'll set it up." And I was like, "Huh? Wait, what?" And then we had Doc. Actually, the first time we did it was like 2011 or 12. We had Doc and Dr. Asurin on through old Cisco WebEx. There's a great story that I'll tell you later about Asurin trying to get into his Gmail.
I think Yosef said this.
Yeah, did he tell you this one? Yosef was so mad. Oh my god! And it was so the people in the room, just so that you're gonna laugh. The people in the room, it was Yosef, me, Peg, and Bob Eilenfeld. And I think Andy Deck might have been in the room too when we're trying to get Asurin to figure this out. And it was
Didn't he say he's like executing, like as he was doing
activating the Gmail.
That's what it was.
And I'm just like, it's just gotta work. It's just gotta work. I just gotta make it work. Please just work. And it worked. It was great. And then we put some videos up of my guys trying to do Doc's special exercises. And this was another moment where I learned that I didn't know anything. And because I got embarrassed in front of the entire group with him, just like, I'm like, yo, these are the best guys I got at doing like these knee drives, the pawbacks, and the lunges. And like, other than the fact that they had bands, they did nothing else right. I mean, it was like, basically, it was like, so see what he's doing? You're going to do nothing like that. And I'm just like, wow. Okay. This is cool. Thanks.
Feels good for the ego.
Yeah. But like, I think that what was great was obviously once we got through that, the ability to sit there and talk with Doc allowed me to, really understand what Yosef was trying to help me with. I think that we all want to kind of find our own way and push through to like leave our mark and do these things. The problem is we all try to do things similar to what those that came before us did without truly understanding why the things that they did worked and what the value was behind them. There's a lot of people right now that talk about 1x20 because that was Doc's thing. There's people that want to talk about specialized exercises. There's people who are talking about extensive jumping and intensive jumping, short coupling versus long coupling. Even if it's just to be like, Jay, shut up. Like, this is just jumping. Like, you're just trying to add words. It's like, no, Verkhoshansky talked about this in the 60s. They're starting to understand the power that comes with understanding what these people whose first name Doctor, their life work was. And learning that these amazing people probably figured out and asked similar questions that you did early on. So when we start to see things that veer off and matriculate back towards different ideas that others have experimented with, sometimes I chuckle a bit because they remind me of conversations that I would have with Doc. Because you see a lot of these things and it's like, so Doc, what do you think? Like, I was trying to toy with this, and should we maybe like go from, doing this to doing that? And it's like, stupid idea. It'll never work. Why would you change what works? Yeah, probably right. It's like, I'm sure somebody's gone into Coca-Cola and been like, guys ever thought about adding a little more sugar? They're like, why are we going to mess with Coca-Cola? Like, again, every time it works, it does. Like, we all want to reinvent our wheel, and we all talk about how important it is to stand on the shoulders of giants, but we don't listen to the people that came before us and actually practice what they did and learn what their teachings were. We just find what's cool and we run with it. And yeah, man, like, I think that's probably been one of the benefits of being here for so long is I've been able to fall on my face and try these more invasive, intensive, cool looking things that, yeah, they'll elicit an adaptation early on, but then the kids can't do it for long. So what are you doing? You're just grinding them down. You ground down doing everything else. But I don't know. That's probably why they call me Greybeard.
How do we, us younger coaches, keep the work of those, Doc Cassis, Yuri, like, how do we keep their work alive and do justice to it?
Oh man. Well, I think probably. I mean, if you're talking about Doc, I think the biggest thing is people need to listen to Yosef more. Like, actually listen to Yosef more. Like, don't just hear what he says. You actually have to listen. People need to understand more what Moyer's doing. Like, I don't know about others, but the people that I know that are probably the two most well versed in what Dr. Yessis taught are those two. And you also have to actually read like what they did. Like, if you want to talk about Yuri, I mean, Natalia has made it her life goal to continue his teachings. So, I mean, if you just watch those 3 presentations, like, you'll have a really good understanding of a lot of that. Like, but you have to listen. And you don't have to listen with the intent of taking what you like and putting it in. You have to listen and follow. because there's literally like it's still in the network, right? The jumping exercise progression.
Yeah.
It's all there. It's there, like step by step. I can print you out it, or you can just listen to it. Like it's there. Extensive short coupling bounces going forward, then vertical, then jumps with weights, then intensifying, then combined jumps, then depth jumps. It's all there. It's all there. Word for word. But people look at it and they say, oh, well, I like this part and I like that part, so we're just going to do that. And that's where we trip over our own 2 feet.
What's the difference between listening and hearing?
Well, if you're just sitting there listening for what you want to take, you're not hearing the whole story. Like, I think that there were probably 2 groups of people in that room that day. There were the people that were trying just to listen to pick things up, and there were the people that were hearing her and reading along. And if you're sitting there hearing her reading along, you can understand that this whole idea of allostatic load that people love to talk about now has been around for a very long time, and that they talked about it forever. And that the confusion between jumps and plyometrics really is fake. Like, Yuri laid it all out, and it should be simple. Now, there are some people who are doing some good work in other ways that are helping with some progressions and that sort of nature, but there are also some things that we're doing and we say that we need to do that she says flat out are unnecessary in that presentation. Altitude drops, for example, are something that people feel is a progression to a depth jump. You've seen that for years, right? Like, you have to be able to withstand the landing to do the depth jump. Where in that talk, she tells you, it was either in the talk or in the questions after, she tells you that no, you're training the body to stop. You're not training the body to utilize a stretch reflex in the maximal capacity that a depth jump is. It's counterintuitive.
Looking to expand your education further, but you don't want to pay the massive fees of going back to school? At Strength Coach Network, we have 2 long-form education courses that both cost less than 1 course taught to you by an online school. If you click down below to learn more about Fundamentals 1 or Fundamentals 2, you will be able to sign up for our education course that has over 20 hours of educational content brought to you by some of the biggest names in the field. Dr. Brian Mann, Zach Daycant, Jeff Moyer, Terrence Kennel, and many more inside of this course, all for less than the price of 1 course at a college university. Are you or your athletes waking up too hot or too cold in the middle of the night? Or are you looking for a sleep tracker option that doesn't involve wearing a ring or a wrist or a watch, something on your body? Then you need to look no further than the company Sleepme. Sleepme makes Chilipads, which keep your bed cold or warm depending on what you want, and they also have a tracker that will go underneath that pad so it will be able to tell how well you slept. When I did a little study on myself with the Oura Ring and with the Sleepme tracker, they were within 97% of each other, and it was actually pretty astonishing how similar the 2 were. I love my Chilipad. It makes me sleep great. I sleep cold. I actually wake up cold now. I haven't woke up warm and pretty much ever since I've had it. I don't like sleeping on the road because I don't have the ability to use my Chilipad. Bunch of former colleagues back at Towson got it. My stepmother got it. Check it out in the link down below. Are you expanding and need more equipment inside your current room? Or are you building a new weight room and you need to get some equipment? You need to look no further than Powerlift. I had Powerlift equipment when I was at Harvard, Iowa, and at the University of Maryland. I'm currently utilizing their stuff right now. I'm telling you, Powerlift strong, Powerlift made here in America, here in the great state of Iowa, made, manufactured. You have the ability for customization, whether it's on the bench, whether it's on the upholstery, whether it's on the bumpers, across the rack. There are countless options, making sure it's designed to your specific brand. It's Powerlift made, it's Powerlift strong, it's not cheap like all the other competitors, and the people inside of Powerlift are people that you want to be with. Check them out in the link down below.
but people didn't listen for that. So like, and there's times, Lima, I'm going to be real with you, and we've talked about this before. There's times I blame myself for that because they were said in my building. Like, these conversations happened at my event. And there's times where I look at it and I'm like, it's my fault people don't understand it. But then I go back and I look at some of these presentations, right? And it's like, another great example. It's like zone 2 training, right? Like, everybody loves cardiac output work all of a sudden. But then you see people doing like cardiac output work for like intervals. It's like, intervals? Like, you want to give yourself a break when the goal is to continually stretch something? You want it to do it and then stop? Like that's not what Victor said. Like, that's not what Victor said. Like, I don't know if it works or not. I don't know if it's the right way or not. I just know that Selyunov said you need to do this for a long time. Not you need to do this for a little time, a lot of times. You got to do it for a long time. So, like, unless you've exhausted what these people that we put on the Mount Rushmore of strength and conditioning said, why are you changing what they're doing? Like, we love to look at all the crazy, fun, intensifying ways of training because we're meatheads and we have a high training age. But it doesn't matter what works for us. It matters what works for a 19-year-old, 6'7", 190-pound kid. Like, that's different. That's why there's some people that, like, they may not lift a lot of weight, but they do so with pretty solid technique and pretty good control. And they take a lot of work on nutrition, and their kids get big. And they play well. And they win a lot of games. And there's people who do other things that we might think are solid training, but just might be a little too much, a little too fast, a little too soon. And their kids don't make it. And I think that the real simple way to do it is just to keep it simple. Listen to what these people that came before us, like we say we do, said to do. Learn the principles, understand the programming, build it out, and then understand how you need and when you need to evolve it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is, how do you then do that in what you kept talking about, this new normal, the portal, like, so the fact that the athlete has changed and the communication and just all of it, like, you're right. How do you just have to be a better way of selling it to coach and athlete and to everybody in the performance team, or what?
What I've done, and I don't know if this is going to work anywhere else, but what I've done is I tell the guys, we're going to take the summer and you're going to learn the principles to what we do. You're going to understand what that means, and you're going to understand what it truly means. The principles of what we do, what that truly means, that we're going to try to do a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit harder each day. What does that truly mean? How can you personally feel that, display that, and track that, right? Is it 5 more pounds on a deadlift? Is it that your jumps went a little further? Your low box jumps were a DC block higher? The hurdles were a little wider apart? Whatever it is, I don't care. I don't care what it is. You did a little more, a little better, a little faster, whatever it is. When you understand that and you can display that, and we can now talk about, as we built in, them hopefully teaching them how to communicate better what they need, then they bring it all to you. It's like, hey, you know what? This right here, what we've been doing, whatever the exercise might be, it's been great. But you know what might really help? No, tell me. Like, yeah, go. Like, because they have ownership. And it's then we've now gotten all the way back full circle to we're building our game day +1 routine. We're building our game day -1 routine. We're building our game day routine. We're building our pre-game routine. We're building our post-game routine, our post-practice routine. What do you need to be ready for the next thing?
Yeah.
And when they understand the principles that are guiding everything we do, like, let's be honest, dude, who cares what the means are in it, right? Oh, well, I mean, we got to do something bilateral where you bend your knees, right? I don't even want to call a squat knee dominant or not, or a trap bar knee dominant or not, but like, sure, that's what we would need to use it for. Let's call it that. Who cares if it's a Zercher squat or a back squat or a belt squat when you're playing 30 games and you practice 150 times? I don't. And even if you give the guys the option, you want a belt squat? I just feel better when I do this. I feel like I can sit better. I feel like I can like just stay locked in. Okay. Like, more often than not, if they truly do understand the principles of what you're trying to get them to learn and to develop and evolve, they pick the right thing. Now, yeah, you got some guys that are just going to take the easy way out. But is it worth fighting them over it then? Like, is your job worth fighting a 19-year-old over you need a Zercher squat and not belt squat? Are you willing to not eat for that fight?
Yeah.
No. Okay, go belt squat. Hey, you know what might help though if you belt squat? If you put the bands on it, and then now can you get it to 1.5 mean velocity? Can you really hit it? Can you really get after it? Make that thing ding. Make that gym aware scream. Great, we're getting what we want anyway. Who cares? And they feel like they won. Great, congratulations. Like,
well, you've got the years of experience to subdue your ego. Is that a big piece of the pie that you're suggesting to any of our younger listeners out there?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And I think that it took me like kind of losing a player, like not like losing a player, but like having one just be like, enough of this asshole. Yeah. Who actually was like one of my favorite people I ever worked with before like we kind of fell apart, to like kind of take a step back and be like, you know what? Maybe there's a better way to do this.
Huh. That's super interesting because I'm sure that some of our listeners out there have, that like they're trying to get through to it, right? And like a lot of the time, it's not the problem is if the coach is talking to you, it's when he stops talking to you, he or she. And it's like, I'm trying to get through. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you know what, you pushed too far. And that's the unfortunate part because like you were saying, you care. And obviously these other coaches, they care too.
Yeah. And I think though that like, this is going to sound so cheesy and so cliche, but like if you put yourself in their shoes, right? Like especially basketball, all they want to do is ball, man. All they want to do is ball. Some of them like lifting weights, but for the most part, they couldn't care less if they lift weights or not. They're really there because, again, Marshawn Lynch, man, they're just there so they don't get fined. Like, that's it. So, like, how can you, if you change your thought process from I'm there to coach them to I'm there to work with you to help you be the best thing you can be, it flips it on its head, bro. Like just stop fighting for what you think is important unless it is something that would put them in a drastically awful position that could injure them or worse. Just stop. Because the rest of it, it doesn't matter. If it mattered, okay, at the under 4 media timeout of every game, we'd bench press. But we don't. Because you know why? Of the 7,500 people in the Robin Center for that game, there's 2 people that give a shit about that. Me and the other strength coach. Nobody else cares. Like, and I know that we've all said these things, and half of us look at it like it's a joke, but it's the God's honest truth. Like, how we start to build this autonomy with guys, Lima, it's the craziest, dumbest, simplest thing ever. It says indie, 3 parts in their workout. And they're like, what's indie? I'm like, okay, this is how we're going to do this, boys. Ready? The first one, you have to write something down that you love to do. Something in the weight room that you really like to do. I don't care what it is. You got to love to do it. You know why? Because if you really like to do it, you're going to get after it. I don't care if it's curls, bro. Don't care. Like, whatever it is, just kill it. What's something you really stink at? Like, you know, like, man, I do rear foot elevated split squats. I can't get down. Like, I don't have balance. Like, can't do single leg RDLs. I'm all over the place. Whatever it is, whatever you're bad at, just do it. Do it. Get better at it. Fill a bucket that you blow at. It makes sense, right? Like, yeah. Okay. Now, take a week. We'll talk a few times. What's something that if we improve in your game is going to help us win games? So what can Justin Lima do better that is going to help us win games? Is it what you're best at and you need to capitalize on that even more? Is there something that you have a harder time with that we need to work on and figure out some sort of exercise that can help that? You tell me. Let's come up with something together. And they love it because it makes sense.
And when do you do this, or how does that go about?
That's the first 3 weeks of the summer, building that out.
Huh.
And then when they figure that out, it's like, how's it going? How are things moving? Okay. So that thing that you love doing, you want to keep doing it, or do you think that we should maybe find another thing that can help your game? Or is there something in the lift that you just look at and you dread doing, and we can put it in there? Well, you know what I really hate? No, but I hope you tell me. Like, I don't know if you know this or not, but I, thank goodness, cannot hear what's going on in your brain at all times. You know? But yeah, and it's like, okay, so the thing you hate, let's get rid of it. And let's put in, oh, you think that you don't push well off your left foot. Okay, well, what if we do this? Well, yeah. Well, you know what? What if when we're doing that, what if we add this? I think that's brilliant. Great. Go.
Huh.
There you go. Come back in a week or 2. How's that going? Really good. You know, I think that like one other thing, and then all of a sudden it's like we got 17 guys doing 17 different things, and they've all had a hand in what they're doing.
What because about any of the purists that are listening to that and they're like, well, Jay, what about uniformity?
So that we all start at the same spot, and I think that's important. And what we've actually done this year, dude, is like no lie, today, like in 15 minutes when we start, it's going to be our first group where we've split up this summer. Huh. They've lifted all together the whole time. And I've loved it with this group because it's like some of the vets are taking the new guys, and like as they've started to matriculate in little by little, like some of the guys who have been through a week or 2 are grabbing the newer guys and like teaching them. Like it's been really cool to watch. Comma, we also say, well, each person's an individual. Well, if each person's an individual, why should each person individually do the same damn thing? Because it's easy for us to teach. It's easy for us to coach. Yeah. It's easy for us to make sure they do all this stuff. Eventually, you just got to trust them. You know? Like, yeah, when there's a group of 9 guys and there's 9 different things going on, am I certain that everybody did everything? Nope. I'm probably more certain that somebody didn't do something than I am that everybody did everything. But at the end of the day, if we talk about periodization and APRE and fluid periodization and changing the loads based on how you feel, if someone does a set of 12 instead of 14, is that why we're going to lose in November?
Yes, because you're not disciplined and you suck as a strength.
Yeah, we missed the line, Missed the line. The best player in the NBA wants to ride horses. He doesn't want to play basketball in the summer. Like,
who's the best player in the basketball in your definition?
Jokic.
Oh, he likes to ride horses.
Yeah, like he's got. Isn't that his thing? Like, doesn't he have like a couple like race horses? And
I have no idea.
I mean, like, they've got to enjoy it. And you know how they really enjoy it is if you let them have some say in it and they build it with you. And that's fun, bro. Like, that's fun. At least for me. Like, it's fun. Like, I'm too old to freaking bark at an 18-year-old kid and be like, squat! Like, yeah. Like, they squat. They're going to do some form of rear foot elevated split squat today. They're going to do step ups. It's like all single leg stuff today. But tomorrow, they're going to squat. They're going to trap bar deadlift. They're going to do leg press or belt squat. Like, yeah, they squat. But in 3 weeks, they're all going to do something different. And it's going to be beautiful chaos.
Speaking of fun, speaking of building, how did you build and create the fun that is CVASPS?
It started with me getting yelled at. So we had a clinic that was like the normal, like local pay a bar tab, bring your buddies in strength clinic. And I mistakenly sent emails when Charles Stevenson was building the basketball symposium about, hey, does anybody have any interest in this? And Charles is like, funny you should ask, I'm doing it. And I was like, oops, how can I help? And I think I got in Charles's way a little bit in the first time he did it. And he's now put together one of the greatest things to help basketball coaches ever. He's brought so many great people together, including me and Heather Mason. That's where we met, who's presenting this year. And I came home from Charles's event when it was in Raleigh, and I got ripped about how you did some stuff to help this guy and our clinic sucks. And I was like, you know what? I kind of deserve that because he's right. Then we just started building it. The first year we bombed out, just like my powerlifting career. We I put together we put together like a 2.5 day event. It was like everybody known to man. It's like Martin Rooney, the Diesel crew back then, Buddy, Doc, Anatoly. I mean, it was insane. The lineup was insane. We had like 3 people sign up. I had to cancel. I cried for a day. I'd rather not get into it. And and then we started over, and Joseph helped me, and the rest is history. It's you brought up Bob before. Bob Alejo was probably part of the moment that it really flipped and it turned into the 200-person roundtable and barbecue that he calls it. Bobby and Derek Hansen going back and forth, asking each other questions, really opened the room up for everybody to be like, wait a minute, if these 2 people that we came here to see are throwing questions and they're throwing like haymaker questions, like, why can't we? And it's super open. It's a great place. We've been really fortunate to not just bring in amazing speakers, but have like some of the best people involved in our performance world come and sit in the room and contribute in all ways, shapes, and forms to discussions throughout the day. And it's really fun, man. And I'm excited to be back on campus. We're just going to do it upstairs here in the queue, and it's going to be a blast.
What are you most excited about for this 2024 event?
Oh, man. I mean, having it back here, first of all, you know, having the barbecue right after, doing everything, being able to show off the facility, I think will be great. You know, I think that the lineup is really going to return people to CVASPS. And I think that I'm really excited for that. You know, I'm really lucky, you know, when Charlie comes, like we get Charlie. We don't get like pre-scripted. We get Charlie Weingroff, you know, the man who's going to give you the real honest opinion of what is going on, and him walking through entire processes and lateralizations and regressions and training based on situations that people are going to bring up. Then it's really going to be rad. Like, I'm really excited for that. And I'm really fortunate that Charlie's so open to do something like that. But I mean, all 6 of them, you know, Ernie talking about metrics, Aaron talking about what they're actually researching, Dr. Davis getting into the weeds of how he breaks things down and analyzes and builds athletes based on daily evaluations, Cam talking about, you know, the missing link in return to play, in my opinion. That's the game speed aspect. And Heather talking about truly building programs within your program when it comes to, incentivizing improvement in internal promotions and things of that nature. I think that we all can do better at, and identifying talent to bring in. I think that we're back to CVASPS, and it's going to be awesome.
Freaking right, everybody. Click the link down below. Be able to sign up, go to the event. You're back on campus with Jay. And like I said, Bob, when I was driving I was driving up to Pittsburgh. Bob and I were talking on the phone, and he was raving about it. So go check it out, y'all. Bob's been there. I've been there. A lot of people have exchanged information and had a blast.
Yeah. Well, appreciate that, bro. It's going to be a good time. And for everybody that's listening to this, when you do click, if you use the code SC Network 10, capital S, capital C, capital N, ETWRK, number 10, I'll get you 10% off for dealing with me for probably too long-winded, too many moments throughout this conversation. So listening all the way through, I'll throw you another 10% off, and would love to have you here. Love to chat with you, and hope you enjoyed as much as we do putting it all together.
This was a pleasure. I got plenty of mic drop moments written here on my notes. So you have fun with your lift, brother, and
We will.
We'll be in touch.
We'll do. Cheers, bro. Appreciate you.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.